I'm kind of over this Capital One hacking story. I don't need to read about it anymore. You know what? You know about this Capital One hacking story, right? Here's the headline. Capital One hacking suspect allegedly boasted online. Ultimately, it was that online trail of brags, plus the occasional mention of cats that Wait, what? That's quite the headline. Capital One hacking suspect allegedly boasted online, and it was the mention of cats that got her caught. Go on. Paige Thompson, 33, was arrested for allegedly hacking into a server rented by Capital One and obtaining data for more than 100 million people. Okay, what is going on here exactly? I know the right person. He's Greg Scott, a cybersecurity expert, also an author, has written the book Bullseye Breach, Anatomy of an Electronic Break-In. Greg, good morning.
Morning, Cory. That was a great introduction. I like that.
Well, Greg, let's start with the story itself. Why should we care about this? What does this matter to us?
Well, this lady was really smart and really stupid at the same time. You summed it up well. This matters to us because a huge bank made a configuration error, and that ended up affecting 100 million people. Odds are pretty good somebody listening is one of those 100 million people. And this kind of stuff happens all the time.
What can they do with that information exactly? And I mean, is it hacking into our bank accounts? Is it more than that?
It's hard to say. It's not in public exactly what information got stolen, and it's not public whether or not this lady sold it to anybody. But apparently there were some bank account numbers, social security numbers, names and addresses, email addresses, that kind of stuff. Most of it is probably already out there in the public domain from other thefts and other hijacks and stuff like that. Realistically, this probably turns out to be not a huge deal for the whole world, this particular hack. But there's an overall environment that is a big deal for the whole world, and this attack is just one of many.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's different about this one, though, most of the time the attacks start with somebody falling for a social engineering scam. This one was different. This one, there was a misconfiguration, and a person with insider knowledge took advantage of it. But then the other part is the victim did everything right when they responded. Capital One did everything right in their response.
What did they do in their quick response?
Well, first of all, somebody on the outside found this data in a I forget where in a Slack forum, I think it was, and they told Capital One in a public mailbox, responsible disclosure at CapitalOne.com, I think was the name of it. So that's a mailbox that's just named like that, and it's in public, and you can imagine all the stuff that probably flies through that. But the surprising part is Capital One responded right away, bam, to that email when somebody told them about it. They did not go into denial. They did not bury their heads in the sand. They responded to it. They fixed their configuration error, and then they called law enforcement, and the rest is history.
Yeah. He's Greg Scott. Yeah. You can follow him on Twitter, @DGregScott. Also, he's got a website, dgregscott.com. All right, so Greg, who messed up here? How did this happen? I know she was kind of an insider, but where were the malfunctions here?
It was a firewall configuration problem, and we don't know details, but somebody had configured a web application firewall with some incorrect settings, and the attacker took advantage of those settings, and that's how she got in. And think about what she went through to even find that misconfigured firewall. There's like 1.5 million IP addresses inside Amazon. The Amazon Web Services is where all this stuff was hosted. That's where Capital One hosts their stuff. And so she had to scan 1.5 million. Well, there's 1.5 million total. So you do your statistics. On average, she had to scan half of those addresses to find one that had a problem. Then she found this one, and that's how she got in. That's a lot. That's some diligent reconnaissance that she performed. Who messed up? Some human being somewhere inside Capital One messed up by configuring that firewall incorrectly. And human beings make mistakes. I've even been known to make a mistake or two.
I don't think so, Greg. I don't think so. Don't say that. So what? Okay. So what can we do about it? You know, we hear all these things, and as long as no money's stolen from our bank account, immediately we think, okay, fine, we move on. But what do we do about it now?
Yeah. Here's what we do about it. We the people. Couple things. First of all, get in touch with the person most influential with cybersecurity on the whole planet, the most powerful person on the whole planet. Go look in a mirror. That's how you find that person. There is no government agency that's going to correct us in the field. If you're an organization leader, there's a lot more you can do about it. The way you find these kind of configuration errors and human mistakes, and this is counterintuitive. I can hear a whole lot of professionals. They're going to say, "Greg, you're nuts. You're off your rocker," and they'll probably say other more colorful things. But open it up. Open up all your settings, all your equipment. Open everything up to the whole world. Publish it on your website, maybe present it at conferences. Here's all the stuff we do for security, and subject it to a whole bunch of public scrutiny. When you do that with your first draft, you'll probably be embarrassed because a whole lot of people will probably find a whole bunch of holes in it that you'll go back and fix. And I'll bet you if had Capital One, had we had a culture around security that was open instead of closed, somebody would have found this configuration error and fixed it, and this breach would never have happened.
Yeah.
And I'll bet a whole bunch of other breaches would never have happened too.
Greg, I want to ask you finally here, just looking at your website, you really hate the Social Security number. How come?
I don't hate it, but we place way, way, way too much importance on it. We learn almost from the time we're born these days. Here's your 9-digit Social Security number. Keep it a secret. Nobody's supposed to know it. And then you go to buy a car or to buy a house or to apply for a job or pretty much anything with credit, and you have to reveal your Social Security number. Is it any wonder that these numbers are out in public and up for sale on underground websites? And so yet we maintain this fiction that Social Security numbers are secret. Well, they're not. But we use Social Security numbers as an authenticator, and that's really stupid. They're a decent identifier. They're terrible as authenticators because anybody who knows my Social Security number can pretend to be me. That's one of the reasons why identity theft is so rampant today. And so, thanks for the lead-in on this. I do have a proposal, and it's on my website. It's a recorded presentation for how to make Social Security numbers less important. So then when people steal Social Security numbers, it won't be that valuable.
There you go.
Open up what you do for security. Level the playing field against the bad guys because the bad guys collaborate with each other. So good guys also need to collaborate. Level the playing field. That reduces the number of attacks. And then also fix Social Security numbers. That reduces the value of what people steal. Yeah. Do both of those things. We put a dent in all this stuff.
Greg, you are the guy with the highest energy of any cybersecurity expert I know.
Well, thank you.
It is. You make talking about it interesting, and I appreciate you. Thank you, Greg.
Well, cool. Thank you. Let's keep talking about it. Bring me back. We'll talk about it a whole bunch more. I've got plenty to say.
Awesome. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Cory.
He knows how to sell himself. I'll tell you.
He does, and you're right. It does sound interesting, and not only interesting. I think I understood what he said.
Yes,
which I think a lot of cybersecurity experts or IT experts, I wouldn't get that.
And the firewall and the IP, but that stuff I get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He is Greg Scott. His book, Bullseye Breach, Anatomy of an Electronic Break-In. Also his website that he was talking about, dgregscott.com.